Today, let me begin with showing a small PowerPoint presentation on three-phase circuits. This will supplement what I have told you in previous lectures. As you are aware that two basic configurations are Y and delta. This applies to the sources as well as to the loads. Okay. Now, three-phase systems are used to transmit power to your homes and to industry as well. The generation is done using three-phase systems somewhere. Then three-phase power, after increasing the voltage using transformers, is fed to transmission lines, which take that power to several parts of the country. On the receiving side, normally we build what we call substations, which generally step down the power to a lower voltage and then distribute it in the area around. Power substations receive three-phase power, but many customers need only single-phase power. So it is substation's job to convert three-phase into single-phase circuits if necessary. Okay. Industry has a lot more equipment that needs three-phase power compared to domestic customers. So this is a schematic diagram. Transmission lines, I'm sure you see them all around you. They are so common, we don't even notice them most of the time. Okay. The generation side is what we are going to be talking about after the midterm exam. Okay. We will assume right now that we are able to generate three-phase power on the generator side without any problems. How it is done will be a subject for discussion after the midterm. Transmission lines generally are fed high voltages, that is more economical. 33 kilovolt, etc., 11 kilovolt, and so on. But the customers do not need that high voltage. So we need to step down the voltage on the substation side. In fact, transformers are the next topic anyway. We will start them after two lectures maybe. Okay. Balanced means all the three generators have identical frequency, identical voltage, and phase shift is progressively 120 degree, plus or minus. And the load side is balanced when all the impedances in the three branches of the load are identical. Why three-phase? Three-phase generators can be driven by a constant force or torque. I told you that instantaneous power has no time-dependent component. So when you use the same system in the opposite direction, the power requirement also does not have to be having a time-dependent component in it. So mechanical power required for generating electrical power need to supply a constant torque, which is a very big advantage for three-phase systems. Also, the other way around, like welding, etc., is where constant power output is a must. It should not fluctuate with time. So three-phase equipment is better in that sense. And of course, three-phase is economical. You can, for the same amount of money, you can transmit a lot more power compared to single-phase systems. Three-phase systems can feed single-phase systems, but single-phase systems cannot feed three-phase systems. That is also the truth. I was telling you last time that for balanced systems, it is possible to do the analysis based on one-phase equivalent circuit and then generalize the results for other two phases. Because you know that it's only 120-degree phase shift progressively in the other two phases. Why the total instantaneous power of a balanced three-phase circuit is a constant. I tried to show you last time using mathematics. We'll go through that document once again. Line voltage is the voltage between the lines which are coming out of the system. Phase voltages are the voltages generated by the generators, by the three generators. Typically, at least let me give you the basic funda of how generation is done. It is all about Faraday's law. You have a current carrying conductor, or rather you have a conductor converted into a loop, and it is allowed to rotate in the magnetic field created by, let's say, permanent magnet. That rotation generates the required AC voltage across the two ends of the loop. In practice, of course, you must have thousands and thousands of loops to get the power that you need, to get the voltage that you need, to get the current that you need. But basic idea is not that difficult. It is mechanical rotation of a conducting loop in magnetic field, which is static. That generates the AC voltage required. It can be other way around also. You can keep the loop fixed and rotate the magnets. We'll come to all that after the midterm. This is what they are trying to show you here, but I'll ignore this one right now. Let's go to three-phase systems. Two possibilities, star and delta. In my notes, I'm calling the phase voltages VAN, VBN, and VCN. They are calling VA, VB, VC. Fine, not a big issue. Okay. On the load side, they are showing small a, small b, small c. I am showing capital A, capital B, capital C, just to distinguish the load from the generator. So be aware of all this. By the way, although we are using ABC, another approach is to use RYB instead of ABC. R means red color wire. It is actually the color code used for one of the phases. Y is yellow. That's another color code given to the second phase. And B, I believe, is blue, which is the third color code used by industry. So RYB instead of ABC can also be seen in several books. Yeah, oh, right here. Yeah, they are also saying that. No, they are not saying RYB here. Okay, fine. Now, one thing you have to realize that although I was showing an idealized version here where three generators are having no losses inside them, that is not real. In reality, all generators have losses. The equivalent circuit for their internal problems is approximately a series RL circuit. That is a realistic picture of an AC generator. So more realistic diagram will be what I'm showing you right now. In series with each generator on the left hand side, we have a series RL circuit where RA and XA, RB and XB, and RC and XC represent the internal imperfections. These values are measured or calculated and given to you. Okay. On the right hand side also, the configuration is delta configuration, but the basic idea is the same, that we have a series RL circuit along with the generator in each of the branches to be more realistic in our calculations and modeling. balanced three-phase voltages, three sinusoidal voltages of the same amplitude, same frequency, but differing by 120-degree progressive phase difference. That means one voltage to another is 120-degree phase shift, second voltage to third voltage is another 120 degrees. Now sequences are given two names, positive and negative. Positive means VAN will have 0-degree phase shift, or will be the reference at least. VBN or VB if you want will have minus 120-degree phase shift, and VCN will have minus 240-degree phase shift. Negative sequence means VAN will have 0-degree phase shift, what VBN will have plus 120-degree phase shift, and VCN will have plus 240-degree phase shift. There's a reason for why we are using positive and negative words here. Later, we'll probably get a chance to get to this issue. So basically what happens is, because of the phase shift, these voltages do not peak at the same time, and they don't go through the zero at the same time. So that is shown here. In terms of phasors, you simply write the peak value and the angle. You don't mention the frequency. We have gone through that. And you have also been told that minus 120 degree, in fact minus 240 degree, can be also written as plus 120 degree by adding 360 degrees to it. Three-phase systems, I told you last time, can be of four types: YY, Y delta, delta Y, and delta delta. YY means the sources are in Y configuration, load is also in Y configuration. Y delta means sources are Y configured, but load is delta, and so on. They are saying it is sufficient to analyze YY, while the others can be treated by delta Y and Y delta transformations. I think they are correct. I have shown you how to convert Y load into delta load and delta load into Y loads. Transformations are also available to convert delta sources into Y sources and Y sources into delta sources. We are not going to do all that. We don't have time to go so much in detail on this topic. We have many other things to speak about. So we will primarily concentrate on YY system, and we will assume that others can be handled also. A lot of these things are already in my notes, but it's a good idea to see how other people view the same topic. It's a YY circuit. You see the way they are drawing it is slightly different from what we have done, but electrically speaking, it is the same thing. Here, of course, they are assuming that the lines have non-zero impedance. The values are represented by Z1A, Z1B, Z1C. Actually, it should be ZL, I think, because this is line impedance. And Z0 is the impedance of the neutral wire. All that can be factored in the analysis, if necessary. By default, we will ignore these things. Line-to-line voltage, is voltage across any pair of the two lines. That means between A and B, between B and C, and between C and A. They have phase shift, but their magnitude is supposed to be the same in a balanced system. Phase, of course, is line to neutral voltages, VAN, VBN, VCN. For Y-connected load, it is obvious that line current and phase current are the same. Whatever is coming out of the individual generators, the same current is going through the lines. But the voltages are different. We showed last time that the line voltage is square root of 3 multiplied by the phase voltage. I'm talking magnitudes, right? We have done this analysis, but if you want, you can always go through it in this PPT as well. The neutral node has zero potential. They have shown it also here somewhere, in a balanced system at least. Yeah, Vn equal to 0 means no voltage difference between nodes small n and capital N. Small n is on the generator side, capital N is the node, corresponding node on the load side. Now, single phase circuits are the best method to tackle numerical problems for balanced systems. We take only one phase and look at the entire circuit for that phase, which will have, of course, the generator impedance if it is given. If it is not given, you ignore it. It will also have the line impedance if given. If not given, just put it 0. Load impedance cannot be put 0. Some load will always be there. So ZA is the load impedance in the A branch of the load. After that, it is Ohm's law in complex domain. Okay. We will handle some numerical problems based on this theory. I did that already. VAB equal to VAN minus VBN, etc. So you can follow my notes or this slide or the next slide also for that matter. This numerical example, we will look at it later on. What I want to do is talk about, okay, Y delta circuit, we will ignore completely for now. Okay. It can be done if not. I want to get to power calculations. I showed you last time anyway that instantaneous power has no time dependent component. They have shown that here also. But the real power is still there. The power which is constant with time is still there. That is the consumed power or average power. And the formula for that can be obtained by using complex power concept for each phase, summing up the three complex powers for the three phases, and then taking the real part of it. That formula turns out to be, I'll see in my notes also, I think I have proven it. That formula for total power delivered in a balanced YY system turns out to be square root of 3 line voltage multiplied by current voltage multiplied by cos phi. They are calling it theta phi, I call it phi, the load angle. Cos phi is the power factor for each of the branches of the load. So that proof is given here. Complex power is the square root of 3 VLIL e to the power j phi. If you take real part, you get cos phi. Imaginary part, of course, is going to be sin phi multiplied by the remaining term. Now, instantaneous power, I've already shown it. They are also showing it here using the math. You take instantaneous voltage in each phase and instantaneous current in each phase, multiply the individual instantaneous V and instantaneous I for each phases, add up the result. A lot of trigonometric identities are required to solve the result, but it turns out that all time dependent terms cancel each other. Only a non-time dependent term remains in the instantaneous power, which is the biggest advantage of three-phase systems over single-phase systems. Okay, we'll look at numerical examples later. I want to finish this. This is it. Okay. I'll send this PPT to you, of course. The other one, I think for a minute, let me show you this, which I have already told you. Let's look at it once again. What is the phase sequence? The order in which the three phase voltages attain their positive peak values is known as the phase sequence. It is ABC or positive sequence. They are calling it RYB. That's what I wanted to bring to your attention. Instead of ABC, one can also call it RYB. If VB is at minus 120 degree and VC is at minus 240 degrees, it's a positive sequence. It can also be called ABC or RYB. A means R, B means Y, and C means B, blue. RYB is also a commonly used nomenclature instead of ABC. So phase sequence is said to be RYB if R attains, that means red wire, the red phase attains its peak value first compared to other two. And then Y attains its peak value after that, and then B, the blue one, attains the peak value. That is what sequence means. RBY is the opposite. Okay. By default, we would assume positive sequence. That means minus 120 degree and minus 240 degree phase shift in the other voltage. Okay. Now let me. Yeah, there's one interesting document here. Which has a very interesting solved problem. There's a lot more in this document, but I don't think I want you to spend too much time in everything. But look at problem 1 carefully. This is the author is a Chinese fellow. He sent it to me a long time ago. So anyway, what is the phase sequence of each of the following sets of voltages? These are time-dependent expressions which are given to us. Instantaneous values are given. So what you do is VA is the reference. So the phase of that voltage is the one you are going to subtract from the other two phases. So if I subtract plus 27 degree from plus 147 degree, I get plus 120 degree. And if I subtract plus 27 degree from minus 93 degrees, I get minus 120 degrees. So this is the best way to figure out the sequence. You take the first voltage VA as the reference. Its phase should be treated as 0. Other two are being measured with reference to 27 degrees. Here is the solution. First, convert the cosine waveform to phasors. Yeah, that of course is a good idea. So for VA, the phasor will be 208, that's the peak value, and 27 degrees. For VB, the phasor will be 208, but angle of plus, just a minute. Oh, he made a mistake. I'm sorry, it should be plus 147. There's a typographical mistake here. VB should be plus 147 degree angle. And VC should be, of course, minus 93. No mistake here. Correct the typographical mistake, please, when you get the document. It happens in things, We all make mistakes. I make mistakes, quite a few. So what you do is, as I said, subtract 27 degrees from everything. He's doing the calculations right. No issue with that. There's no mistake in calculations. So the angle of VA, which he is calling VA prime, is 27 minus 27 degrees, which is 0 degrees. The angle of VB is plus 147 minus 27, which is 120 degrees. And angle of VC is minus 93 minus 27, which is minus 120 degrees. Okay. Now, minus 120 degrees can be called as plus 240 degrees by adding 360 degrees to it. So what you are seeing is that progressive phase shift is plus 120 degree, not minus 120 degree. It is actually a negative phase sequence. He is calling it ACB. Fine. It is not what we normally assume. At least in my discussions, I always assume minus 120 degree and minus 240 degree phase shift for the other two voltages. But here it is actually plus 120 and plus 240. It is a negative sequence case. For the second case also, similarly, you take minus 18 degree and subtract it from the other two. So you will get minus 120 degree and plus 120 degree. I think this is positive sequence. Yeah, this is ABC, which means positive sequence. Okay. Expect things like that in the exam, So at least problem 1 is what you should take very seriously. Problem 2 is a realistic description of a lossy system. Calculations are possible, but we will. Here also there are some typographical mistakes. I've seen that. Anyway, I would not insist that you go through problem 2 carefully, but at least problem 1 is what you should read very carefully and correct that typographical mistake. There's a lot more here. It is more for electrical engineers. You are mechanical engineers. I don't expect you to go through each and every problem very carefully. Now, let me wrap up by showing my own document, the rest of it at least. Yeah, this one. We went through this. Now I have corrected. In fact, I have improved one page where a lot of things were missed during scanning. Essentially, what we did was I drew this diagram of a balanced YY system. These are the notations I'm using. Lines have zero impedance. Neutral also has zero impedance. Sources are ideal. That means they have no internal impedance. VAN, VBN, I'm assuming positive phase sequence. So minus 120 degree and minus 240 degree is the phase difference for the VBN and VCN. And these are the well-known values of cosine and sine functions that we need. Line voltages I have calculated using KVL. They turned out to have a phase shift plus 30 degree more than the phase voltage. Plus 30 degree, the magnitude is the same for all the line voltages. It is square root of 3 multiplied by Vm, which is Vm is the peak value of the generator's voltage. So plus 30 degree for first line voltage, minus 90 degree. Still there is 120 degree phase shift between the line voltage, but the absolute values have gone up by 30 degrees. And then minus 210 degrees. The magnitude is what we mostly care about for the line voltages. And that magnitude is the same for all lines. We call it VLL. In many books, they call it VL, which is fine. It is square root of 3 multiplied by the peak value of the generator voltage, which we call VPH, phase voltage. Okay. Line currents are same as phase current, not a big issue. They can be calculated using the equivalent circuit for the phase. Current in neutral wire can be calculated using this. I've done all this, so let me quickly refresh your memory. That's it. Using this equivalent circuit, I wrote individual currents in the lines and then I summed them up to figure out the neutral current, and it turned out to be 0 for balanced system. Total power consumed, as I said, we calculate individual complex power for each phase and sum it up. And this summing up requires a lot of trigonometric simplifications. In time domain, it is a lot more complicated. In phasor domain, where we are using complex power concept, it is simpler. It turns out to have this result, equation 29. You don't have to remember the results. Generally, these things can be done numerically, directly. But in time domain, you go through this derivation carefully. The result is that we get an answer which is independent of time. Okay. Now let's look at a numerical problem. For the ideal lossless balanced, again D has been missed in scanning. Balanced 3-5 means three phase power system shown below. Calculate the total power in the load. Assume frequency as 50 Hertz. Balanced systems, again, something has been missed in the scanning. On the load side, R is 1 ohm. Ohm had been missed. L is 2 millihenry. It's a balanced load. So R and L values are same for all the three branches, 1 ohm and 2 millihenry. So the first thing you do is calculate the reactance of the inductor using 2 pi FL formula. That's number one. Hopefully there is no mistake in my calculations. You get 0.754 ohm approximately. So the total impedance for each of the branches in the load will be 1 plus J 0.754 ohm. Okay, R plus J omega L, R plus J 2 pi Fl. If you take the magnitude of that, you should get 1.2524 ohm in the polar form conversion LCG. And phase angle phi is tan inverse 0.754 divided by 1, which turns out to be 37.02 degrees. That is the load side. Now, single phase equivalent circuit, although I have not drawn it, it's easy to draw. Basically, you look at phase A. Since everything is lossless, generators are lossless, lines are lossless, all you do is divide VAN by the Z of the impedance of AN branch in the load to get the current I small a, which is same as I capital A. Whether you are looking at line current on the phase on the generator side or on the load side, it is the same value because of the connection. So IA equal to IA is 110. Okay, RMS values are given. You can convert them to peak values by multiplying by square root of 2, or you can work directly in RMS also. So if I want current in RMS, I simply take 110 with a phase of 0 degree divided by R plus J omega L. And R plus J omega L is already calculated as having a modulus of 1.2524 ohm and an angle of 37.02 degrees. Using polar form is easier for division and multiplication. That is why I do it this way. You can always do it by multiplying by the complex conjugate of R plus J omega L in numerator and denominator. You can do that way also. You should get the same result. So if I do the calculation after that, I get IA equal to 87.83 amperes RMS with an angle of minus 37.02 degrees. Minus SA will be VAN multiplied by complex conjugate of IA. So VAN, now half is not there. I was initially defining complex power with 1 by 2 in the beginning. But since we are dealing with RMS values, 1 by 2 will go away. You have to do it all again and again to get this clear in your head. So 110 is the VRMS, and IA complex conjugate will be 87.83 multiplied by e to the power plus j 37.02 degrees. Simplify this, you get a real part which is 7713.83 watt, imaginary part which will have the unit VAR. In a complex power, the overall unit is VA. The real part has a unit watt or kilowatt. The imaginary part has a unit VAR or kVAR. So the real part, which is called P or PA or phase A, it is consumed power or actual power or active power, it turns out to be almost 7.714 kilowatt. They want only active power, I think, power consumed. Wait. Yeah, they don't want the reactive power, so which is fine. By the way, a power triangle can be drawn for phase A. You show P on the horizontal axis, you show Q on the vertical axis, and try to sketch it as accurately as possible. And then you create the hypotenuse, which will be square root of P square plus Q square for each phases. SB and SC and SA, you can do the calculations because it's a balanced system. Complex power will be the same in each of the branches. So total complex power will be 3 times SA. Try to do it yourself. Verify this. Total P will be 3 times what we got for phase A. Total Q also will be 3 times what we got for phase A. Okay. Now, one thing, although we have not done the derivations for YY system, so for delta delta system, it has been done, and some points that come out for observation and for future reference are listed here. In star connection, again something has been missed in scanning. It is magnitude. Okay. In star connection, the magnitude of the line current is same as the magnitude of the phase current. We have seen that. In delta connection, derivations show that the phase voltage and line voltage, of course, are the same, but the magnitude of line current is now higher compared to phase current by a factor which is same as square root of 3. So in star-star connection, currents are same, but voltages are different for line and phase. In delta connection, it is the opposite. The voltages are same for line and phase, but currents are different. Okay. In a star connection, the magnitude of line voltage is higher compared to phase voltage. In delta connection, the phase voltage and line voltage have the same magnitude. Some things that we have done, but it is a reminder, basically. The total power consumed formula is the same for both systems. It can be proven. For star-star system, we have proven it. Line voltage multiplied by line current multiplied by the power factor of the load, and the entire thing multiplied by square root of 3 gives you the total consumed power in a balanced YY system as well as in a balanced delta system. This equation, although I have not proven it, just take it from me, it applies. Because essentially what is happening is, in one case, voltage is higher, current is lower, or current is same. In the other case, it is the other way around. So when you take the product of voltage and current, it remains unchanged. Now, other practical aspects are when you compare Y systems with delta systems. What are the pros and cons? The insulation requirement for each phase in a star connection is less. Because in a star connection, the phase voltage is lower than the line voltage. So for a given line voltage, generators will have to generate lower voltage. And lower voltage generation means less insulation required. So cost will go down. In a delta-delta system, line voltage requirement is same as phase voltage requirements. So insulation required will be higher, like more material will be required to insulate the wires so that accidents don't happen. A star connection is normally used in both transmission and distribution, whereas delta connection is normally used in distribution only. Okay, this is a practical advice. For generation and for transmission, we generally use star connection. But when it comes to distributing the load to public, we divide them into delta connections. Maybe more logistically correct, than anything else. Star connections can be used for long distance transmission. Okay, with ultimately we are obsessed with price of doing things. Less insulation means less cost. So star connections for the same money can transmit power over a longer distance compared to delta connections. Okay, star connections are often used in applications requiring less starting current. This is something you may not relate to right away. When we talk about motors after the midterm exam, we will come back to this point. Right now, just take it as a given. Neutral wire, by the way, is necessary in a star connection. In a delta connection, it's not there. I guess that must be one of the reasons why on the distribution side, we use delta connection so that the fourth wire can be avoided. So price goes down. Okay. Now, besides the neutral wire, there's a fifth wire also, ground wire, which is normally not mentioned in the books, but it is there. It is always kept at zero potential. Neutral wire also is at zero potential in theory for balanced systems. But in reality, although we have not done the calculations, for an unbalanced system, neutral wire will turn out to have some potential. It may be high also. So to maintain a reference called 0 volt, we also run a ground wire in most cases, which is used for diagnostic purposes by the technicians. It is not available to public most of the time. Because after all, you want to have a reference against which you measure all the other voltages in the system. So ground wire is a reality. Most of the transformers in LNMIT campus have a ground connection also, and which is grounded physically in earth using standard techniques. Okay. Okay, this problem, you may want to think about it. Then I'm going to stop. If one of the three phases fails, that means generator gets broken, will delta circuit be better or will Y circuit be better? What we are trying to figure out is, can we continue to supply to customer when one generator fails? Is delta circuit better or Y circuit better? If one generator fails, can we still get some line voltages? Which is better option? You think about it. Okay. I can give you the solution later. So I think I'm going to stop.